Now, to all Social Security beneficiaries, we have a huge warning just for you. First of all, a big change has been made. Social Security's trust fund depletion date has moved 1 year earlier, and that millions of beneficiaries will see their benefits decrease sooner than expected. This news comes as the latest batch of monthly checks were just sent out. And now American Social Security checks will get a lot smaller in 2034, 1 year earlier than was projected last year. That's if lawmakers don't act to address the pending shortfall. Because according to an annual report released today by the Social Security trustees, Social Security trust funds are now projected to run dry in 2034 rather than in 2035. At that time, the fund's reserves will be depleted, and the program's continuing income will cover about 80% of the benefits owed. The estimate is 1 year earlier than the trustees projected last year. About 66 million Americans received Social Security benefits in 2022. Meanwhile, Medicare is in more critical financial condition. Its hospital insurance trust fund, known as Medicare Part A, will only be able to pay scheduled benefits until 2031. At that time, Medicare, which covered 65 million senior citizens and people with disabilities, will only be able to cover about 90% of the total scheduled benefits. Last year, Medicare's trustees projected that the hospital trust fund's reserves will be depleted in 2028. Immensely popular but long troubled. Social Security and Medicare are on shaky financial ground, in large part because of the aging American population. Fewer workers are paying into the program and supporting the ballooning number of beneficiaries who are also living longer. Also, healthcare is becoming increasingly expensive. Because Social Security has two trust funds, one for retirees and one for survivors, looking at them separately is the way to go. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund is projected to run dry in 2033, at which time Social Security could pay only about 77% of benefits, primarily using income from payroll taxes. The date is 1 year earlier than estimated last year. The Disability Insurance Trust Fund is expected to be able to pay full benefits through at least 2097, the last year of the trustees' projection period. Merging the two trust funds would require Congress to act, but the combined projection is often used to show the overall status of the entitlement. Social Security's projected long-term health worsened over the past year because the trustees revised downward their expectations for the economy and labor productivity, taking into account updated data on inflation and economic output. Social Security's projected long-term health worsened over the past year because the trustees revised downward the expectations for the economy and labor productivity, taking into account updated data on inflation and economic output. However, the long-term projection for Medicare's hospitals trust funds finances improve, mainly due to lowered estimates for healthcare spending after the height of the crisis. Also, the program is projected to take in more income because the trustees estimate the number of covered workers and average workers will be higher. Regardless, the bottom line remains that Medicare is not bringing in enough money to pay the cost that is expected to face. The trustees' reports are the latest warnings to Congress that they will have to deal with the massive entitlement programs and fiscal problems at some point in the future.
Able to move forward to end starvation wages in this country and raise the income of 32 million struggling Americans. But Lindsey Graham had a different take. He said this decision actually reinforces reconciliation cannot be used as a vehicle to pass major legislation change by either party on a simple.
They'll instead receive a $200 tax credit by filing a 2020 tax return. And also, about 300,000 low-income essential workers will receive $500 checks from the Baker administration. Payments will be mailed to eligible Massachusetts residents beginning on Monday as part of the Crisis Essential Employee Premium Pay Program. The House Speaker said on Twitter, the legislature was proud to establish this program through our American Rescue Plan Act, and the essential workers who work to keep the Commonwealth during the height of the crisis deserve nothing less. People must have earned at least $13,000 with a total income below 300% of the federal poverty level. The maximum income for a single filer must be no more than $38,000. A lot of money's coming your way, so get ready. Let's get ready for President Biden to send out more stimulus checks. I'm definitely ready for this, everybody. New deposit date has been confirmed. The next batch of checks will be deposited this week. Yes, this week. Many Americans can expect to receive a one-time inflation payment. Some governors have also agreed to use unused funds of crisis relief checks for bonus checks for the residents. So states are continuing to send out target relief checks to the residents just to help people offset the impact of rising gas and inflation. These states are sending out the relief money in one form or another. Rhode Island is the latest state to join the growing list and will be sending rebate checks and relief money in the form of a child tax credit. Stimulus checks from Rhode Island will be a one-time payment and expected this fall. Governor David McKee announced that eligible taxpayers will get a one-time check from Rhode Island this fall. Eligible residents will get a rebate of $250 per child for a maximum of up to 3 children per household. A lot of money, everybody, is coming to people's way. In a press release, Governor McKee said, "Supporting parents and their children with Rhode Island new child tax credit is a sensible and critical way to keep our economy growing, but the threshold for filing jointly is $200,000 or less, and Governor McKee's office estimates that about 115,000 households could qualify for the child tax credit. The state will begin sending the money in October." State officials said this week, "We're happy to help the governor provide financial aid to Rhode Island families at this critical time for the state's economy. The Division of Taxation is working now on building the process for getting this money to taxpayers as quickly as possible." And also, the federal government said they were running money in just a few weeks. At the end of the current fiscal year, lawmakers now have a race to avoid a government shutdown, but there seems to be a 0% chance that Congress could pass 12 appropriation bills in the chamber. Senate Democrat Mark Warner is optimistic that a shutdown will be avoided and that lawmakers will instead pass a stopgap continuing resolution to keep the government open. Senator Warner told reporters that the constant threat of a shutdown is bad. Warner said, "Nothing is more stupid than a lack of discipline about providing a budget in a timely fashion. Continuing resolutions mean that all federal spending is frozen at the prior year levels. It's unclear if lawmakers will try to advance a clean CR with no additional provisions aside." Lawmakers often attach substantive legislative provision to continuing resolutions in the hopes that the bill be seen as a must-pass. A Democratic Hill source told CBS News that this week, Senate Democrats may consider thinking and linking legislation to the stopgap funding measure with the goal of forcing Republicans to take position on the issue in the Senate. To advance in the Senate, 60 votes are needed, but Bernie Sanders has said that he would oppose a stopgap government spending bill that includes forthcoming permitting legislation, underscoring progressive resistance to the bill.
Senator, I do know that if you're talking about the New York Post story, I do know that consistent with our policies, we made the decision to submit that story to be reviewed by independent fact checkers. It was never removed from our service, and we never blocked anybody from sharing that story.
Well, I know people in Florida that they were kicked off by putting the story up, so. All right, last one. By a show of hands, how many of you and your companies have felt pressure to act upon an FBI misinformation warning you received, such as by removing, censoring, or restricting?
So some big developments on the fourth stimulus package are being made. Top Democrats have announced that Biden administration has plans to pass new relief legislation, and this new bill will affect millions of people financially. You want to watch this entire video to never miss out on the most important stimulus check information. And folks, don't forget to subscribe. Here are some breaking news from the White House officials. The Biden administration is to propose legislation that would allow the federal and state agencies